Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to apply the medicine ball throws and another exercise to doing some sport-specific training. So what we've got is we're gonna do the power throw now, which is it's one of three exercises that we want to do. So when I wrote the book Athletic Fundamentals of Golf, we had essentially three exercises that if you're a golfer, we're going to fix every swing fault. And what they were the med ball toss and bump, one that we already did, the med ball toss over the shoulder, and the power throw, which we're going to do next. It's a pretty good deal for most golfers if they only have to really learn three exercises to fix most of their swing faults. And it seems like a big claim, but what we've noticed that it works just because it addresses all the movements from a principle standpoint. And like we said, we're dealing with fundamental movement, not compensation. So what we're going to do is have Howie go through the 6-note power throw on the cable. So he's going to get into his stance and he's going to go through his 6 notes. Good, and rotate through. So he's got the first note, 2-foot stance. Second note, he's going over to his back leg. Third note, he's loading his back leg. Fourth note, he lowers the center of gravity for control. Fifth note, he strides. And the 6th note, he throws. So what's happening is he's building a greater feel because there's more resistance for the exercise. Go ahead and let's do like 6 of those, and then we'll do 4 med ball tosses, and then we'll do a couple of batting exercises, or just swings. Good. Now as he goes through, he can make adjustments. If he feels that he's off balance, he can understand if it's ground reactive force not getting low enough. If he gives up physical advantage at any time, he can make the adjustment. The one thing that he's not going to feel so much with this is the heavy point, because the heavy point you've got to have like more velocity, but that'll be addressed by the med ball throws. Good. So what you'll notice is for this, he loads his back leg, still back leg as he's striding, and he goes through. So he's really maxing out how much he's loading positionally, and from here, as he crosses over, loads the back leg, and he goes lower. Now as he strides, go ahead and stride. Now Howie's spine angle actually gets more on this side, so that shows he's going to be behind the ball. As he rotates, he's going to have that spine extended position. If he loaded too tall, the tendency would be to actually lean towards the ball, and that's that early rotation with a high center of gravity. Right, so what you can see is as he lowers, he's actually negating that tendency to do that. So the analogy, it's not a perfect analogy we use, is a race car. Why do race cars have spoilers on them? Well, because when the projectile travels really fast, you don't want it coming off the ground if it's a car, right? So the downforce sort of concept is similar here. If I'm going to bat and then I don't want to drift high, I have to have the instinct to go lower to load the ground and actually get control. And golf's the same way. Once I'm here, I need to feel, and it's not going to be very much of a lowering, but it's going to counteract the tendency to want to go high. Okay, so now he's going to do the med ball throws, same sequence. Let's just do 4 of these. Good. Nice straight throw so it comes right back to him. Good. So feedback on that. If he actually strides and the arms pass midline, then it turns out to be a bit of a pull. So now all you're going to do, it's not bad or good. Now you're actually going to make the correction. So what I'd say is from a lower body fix, if Howie throws it off left, it's a pull. He's crossing over, loading here, striding, and as he comes through, this leg may straighten too much. If it blocks off the lower body rotating, then the tendency is to go this way. So as he opens, the knees have to rotate a little bit. Knees or hips, just depending on the mechanics of your sport. Good. That's a slight overcorrection, so that's actually progress. That shows that he's actually learning. So now, just stay in a rhythm. Good, perfect. So that's actually a very good demonstration of how a good athlete can actually use a little bit of feedback, but just thinking about principles rather than where are my hands. Now he understands from a principle standpoint, if he gives up midline control and physical advantage early, the ball's going right for him as a left-handed batter. Now if he overcorrects, the midline's too fast, then it'll actually tend to go to this side, or if he gets a high center of gravity lateral drift. But he actually rotated too fast, and then on the last rep, he actually synced everything up and it went straight. So he understands automatically. You don't have to tell an athlete when the rep's good. They know when it's good, most of the time. Now go ahead, now what he's gonna do is take that and make the same motion he'd make when he's batting. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, let's take it just a couple. Okay, so then feedback on that, I mean, how does that feel going from the one to the other to this?
I can, obviously the baseball swing feels the most comfortable out of them all.
Right.
But I can definitely tell when I do it and I load right. And finishing balance, that's something that's always been a quick feedback. You know, if I'm able to take a baseball swing and I finish balance, usually I've done a lot of things right.
Right.
And that's with the cable and with the med ball, it's the same thing. I could feel when I was off balance, or if I was leaning and forcing to gain my balance.
Yeah.
Not just actually finishing with the proper motion. So.
Right, right. So, you know, somebody who's a pretty finely tuned athlete, or somebody who's made a lot of motions and you know what it feels like, we say this, that it's great to have, like, to hit a great ball. It's one of the best feelings in the world. But when you hit a great ball and you, or actually more to the point, when you have a negative result, when you hit a bad shot, it's the worst feeling in the world. Like hitting a good shot and not knowing why is a bad feeling as well too, because you know you've sort of won the lottery. So what we'd like guys to do is be more certain of their technique, understand how they actually do it, and so they can repeat it. And then the challenge becomes, well, can I get enough reps in so that it becomes automatic? So with Howie, what we're trying to do is we've got the arm low. We're trying to set him in a strong, physically advantaged position, stopping him from getting any feeling of anxiety from being out of position, and having him in the right order. So as a coach, you've got a couple of options here. You can use the cables. You could use a med ball. You could actually have them make swings or even take batting practice. You could use one of the components. You could use a couple of the components. But this would all sort of feed into how are you going to design a training program for your athletes. We go back to working on fundamentals. It's not hard to work with a team or a large number of people if you're working on fundamentals, but if you're working on specific idiosyncrasies or compensations for idiosyncratic movement or poor movement patterns, it's not going to be as efficient. So how you actually put this into your training program, the sets, reps, volumes, that's going to be determined by your time in the sport, your physical conditioning, probably to some degree your age, and limiting factors like if you've had injuries, time of the season, you've got to consider all that. And obviously there's different ways, or not obviously, there are ways that you can actually measure your physiology to see if you're actually in the right zone. And that comes down to lifestyle management and to some degree coaching and an awareness of being able to manage your off course with your on course, or in field of play with your home life. So you've got to be cognizant of that. With the med ball training, you know, we'll do a huge amount of reps, but they're lower intensity. The higher intensity reps that we do like this will obviously have a much shorter workout period. So when we're doing light med ball throws, this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. We can do 1,000 reps like that because we're really not getting a huge number. But reps like this, obviously, it's going to be a lot less because the intensity is higher. So, you know, be careful, be aware, get educated on the use of sets, reps, and volumes, and recovery specifically. And good luck implementing this med ball training into your training programs. Now, with regard to applying or implementing, integrating the med ball training in with your current training programs, you've got a number of variables to consider. I mean, most coaches, whatever population they've got, they're fairly aware of their athlete's ability or their capacity to do work. So you've got to take a look at the age of your participants, their fitness level, how long they've been in the sport, their skill level in general, and general concerns like health if they've got limiting factors like injuries. When you're talking about volume with the med ball exercises, what we've found is that it's the same as any other training program. You can't jump in the deep end with these exercises. So we'll start in a progression sort of similar to what we've done. We'll start with a simple exercise like we did the med ball big circles. And we'll do it limiting people's range of motion. We'll start them moving in a fairly quickly, in a fairly high center of gravity position. As they get better at the exercise, we'll increase the intensity. Well, how do we increase the intensity? We'll actually lower the center of gravity and slow down the movement so the time under tension is increased. So the intensity goes up on a number of different levels. Now, quite obviously, you can reduce rest periods in that period of time, but as they're doing that, as we said, these exercises become movement screens or tests in themselves. So when we have, say, a golfer, and I have a golfer come in, and I know that they can only do 1 or 2 med ball big circles, and that happens, that people are maxed out after that, then we know, well, that's too intense, right? If we ask them to go through a full range. So then we back off, and we get them to do a comfortable number of repetitions. And sometimes it's only 1 or 2. Like the general guideline when you're doing skill-specific training is that when form starts to break down, the exercise, that particular exercise is over. The whole workout could be over as well. So then when we move from something like that to something that's more dynamic, like the chest passes that we did, jumping off 1 foot, there's quite a few skill components that are happening, but the capacity to do that exercise is completely different if we lower your center of gravity. 6 to 9 inches is how you'll attest to. So what we've got to figure out is we would like to get a baseline number of reps in. Now for most of our athletes, we're getting 300 to 500 in the first session because there's a lot of teaching. And as we teach the principles and we get them to go, I try to get my kids to get 1,000 reps a weekend. Now that 500 seems like a lot, but when we break down a throw like this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, that's 4, and a lot of the exercises are like that. You start to realize that a lot of the exercises don't have a huge intensity. There's a little bit of endurance component. Even this is a little bit of a squat, right? So if we get 200 of those are 200 half squats with a rotation. It's a little bit demanding. So what we'll do is we'll build up capacity, and the goal, like we said, is to get a significant number of reps a week. Now most golfers, if you take a look at them in golf, is what I know, in an hour and a half training session at a range, they'll hit 120 balls, maybe if they're good players. They won't just rocket them. In the same hour and a half period with a golfer, we can get 1,000 reps. Now, we might get 1,000 reps of smaller movements, not big amplitude movements with the arms, or, the better the athlete is, we may get more reps. Now, somebody like Howie, who's in shape and doing these exercises, we can get more repetitions from. So the goal is to get 3 to 4 times the amount that they get in their sport. That's why I had Howie do, I think 6 or 8 of those, just more med ball throws, and then just very few swings. And that's sort of the ratio that we're looking at. Say the foundational work is always going to be pretty big with the med ball, and because it is movement specific, we don't have to go crazy with the sport specific stuff. Like we can leave that up to strength and conditioning coaches. I coach both, but we'll spend a lot of time doing medicine ball work. We'll do a little bit for confirmation in the driving range, and then we'll actually go and play golf more, which is where we get the more sort of game realistic progress. So when you're trying to fit this into your program, I can't tell everybody how to do it. You should sort of understand the principles of exercise and the needs of your students. But obviously the first principle is do no harm. Introduce it at a level. When you see forms start to break down, you can back off. So with a lot of the coaches that implement this specifically for golf, they may get 100 reps the first time through. In the first week they may only do up to 200 reps. But fairly quickly, within a month's time, as people progress and their capacity increases and they can still hold form, it's self-evident to them when they should move up. So you've got to take everybody on an individual basis. I mean, that's really the best way. They could train as a team, but they need to be considered as individuals.